we see right now that record numbers of young people are turning out to vote. And I'm wondering what you would like to tell them about what makes voting significant, what makes their choices matter, and what is really the role of policy.
Those are connected, definitely.
Right. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So what is the role of policy in
right. So
in
whenever
the scheme of things, as opposed
whenever we're voting,
activism,
it's very good that people are coming out to vote and reacting to the shenanigans at the national level we've been experiencing in the past 4 years. And it's also important to know that when we're voting or not voting for whatever reasons, and there should be no vote shaming ever. Whenever we are participating or not participating as voters,
because not voting is a vote, right? Not voting is kind of saying, I don't feel represented by anyone.
In terms of calculation, and it's tied to policy.
Yeah.
It's part of the calculation which will determine who in your community would go on to City Hall, State Senate, Assembly, Congress, to make decisions on your behalf. Whether or not you agree or disagree with them, their decisions would apply to anyone in the constituency. So how does that tie to policy? When you go to the voting booth, I believe it's important to know what policy priorities you're also voting for or voting against, as the case might be.
Because often,
the reason for this is because our ability to move around, live well, or not be able to pay our bills is all tied to the policy decisions.
Because we often are, and kind of the point of this show is that we're often, expected to vote based on a couple of bullet points on a glossy flyer with a fancy picture of a candidate.
Yes.
I mean, that happens especially at the lower levels when people don't
right. And I think
have
that's
financing for 2-minute commercial spots.
Right. And I think that's why many of us loved Bernie Sanders, because he talked about policy. Whenever you saw him speak, heard him speak, he was talking about issues.
Well, he's been consistent for 40 years.
And he's been consistent on that message. And that's also what motivated me to run for office in 2016 for the 2017 election, because, again, going back to my upbringing, it's all about policy. I've seen it. I've heard people talk in the chamber, in the conference room, about how they're going to vote, why they are going to vote. And it's oftentimes because X, Y, and Z folks in the community are asking for it, and they vote. And that's how an indirect democracy works, right? That's how representation works. Not everyone can be in this room, right? So you nominate someone every 4 years, every 2 years to go do the bidding for you. What's the bidding? Policy. How much to fund a community organization? How much to fund a worker cooperative or entities that train worker cooperative employees, for example. So policy matters because it brings money, or it fails to bring money, as the case might be, to public schools versus charter schools, to public hospitals, if we can get one on Staten Island, or not. And that's why when you go into the voting booth, you should go understanding that your decision in the booth or outside of the booth, if you're not voting, will have a direct impact on policy and the kind of policies that are being produced at City Hall.
So you've heard it from a direct witness. Vote, because politicians listen to voters.